Ladies and gentlemen, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. loses his cool after Suge Knight accused him of being involved in the assassination of Tupac Shakur after Tupac Shakur fired him on August 27, 1996, approximately 13 days before Tupac's assassination. The crazy part is, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. has never spoken on the fact of what? Why he went to the police 3 days after Tupac's death and told the Los Angeles Police Department that Suge Knight had gang members on his payroll and that they were carrying firearms, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into some of this straight game.
Life is like the cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. It's your boy Delray Richardson, platinum artist, platinum songwriter, Straight Game TV. Hit the thumbs up button. Also subscribe to the channel if you have not already. It's very much appreciated. And like I always say, if you want to be one of the first people notified when I drop some of this straight game, please do me a favor and click on what appears to be that the little bell notification right below this video. I'm going to get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr., also known as Reggie Wright Jr., has been implicated once again in the murder of Tupac Shakur, ladies and gentlemen. But recently, he released a video responding or attempting to respond to Suge Knight, basically saying that he has nothing bad to say about Suge Knight. After 2 seconds after he says that, then he goes in and calls Suge Knight a rat and all of these other things. Ladies and gentlemen, let's be clear. The questions were asked. The accusations were made. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. has not, I repeat, has not answered the question. Why did he go to the Los Angeles Police Department 3 days after Tupac's death? Ladies and gentlemen, Tupac wasn't dead 3 days. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. went to the Los Angeles Police Department and basically snitched on Suge. You know why? You know why? The same reason Suge finally caught on. This is the reason why. After Tupac and Suge got hit, Suge really didn't know, all of what was going on because, like I said, once again, it's a plot, right? But check this out. What Suge did Suge know? Listen to this, because most people say, well, why did Suge would mess with Reggie? Check this out. Let's be clear about this, because a lot of people lack common sense. You know what I mean? They come from other platforms over to my platform. I'm a common sense man. Check this out. So now I want you to understand this. Did Suge Knight know that Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. went to the Los Angeles Police Department and told them that he had gang members on the payroll and that they were carrying firearms when they tried to pull Suge Knight over for the felony stop and MC Hammer got in the way? No, he didn't know that. He didn't know that until later on. Right? Right? And so by him not knowing that until later on, he's like, oh, you're kind of seeing, they said, keep your enemies close, or your friends close, but your enemies closer. That makes sense. That's common sense. But more importantly, so when they asked that question, it's like, nah, he didn't know that. What do you think? Suge went and told Reggie the Rat Wright Jr., yo, go tell the police, I got, homies from the hood on the payroll and they got guns. No, the police volunteered that information. What would make somebody who Suge Knight put food on the table, gave him the job of a lifetime? What would make him, 3 days after Tupac, you got to understand, go back 3 days. No, go back, let's say six days Yeah, 6 days, 7, 8, 9. Go back 9 days. Because he did it 3 days after Tupac died, which was on the 13th, right? So go back 9 days to the night that Tupac was assassinated. Think about this. So now, Reggie failed Suge and Tupac in Vegas. So Suge knows this because Suge, like, where was Reggie at? Remember on the tape with Frank Alexander saying they had the meeting shortly after the shooting back at Suge's house? And Frank Alexander was saying that Suge was like, what's up? You know, he was asking Frank, what happened, Frank? Like, and Frank went on to tell him, say, hey, man, I asked for more security and blah, blah, blah. And then he said that Suge say, what's up, Reg? What happened? So from that answer, that bullshit ass answer that Reggie gave Suge at that particular time, Suge wasn't messing with Reggie no more. People keep asking why. You already know now because you've seen the documentation and where Reggie went to the Los Angeles. Why did Reggie go to the LAPD? Why? Because Suge wasn't messing with him no more. Suge didn't need his services no more. He failed in Vegas. He failed 9 days ago. And Suge caught one in the head, grazed in the head or whatever, and Tupac gone. This is 3 days after Tupac's death. You got to make sense of it. So now, right? Suge knew about Tupac firing Reggie. Reggie lied about it and said it happened in April. It didn't happen in April. You see the paperwork. These are the questions that Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. cannot answer at all. He will get on Bums First and get on there and tell you everything and put up these little surreptitious ass conversations that he done had with Suge Knight, that Suge thought that he was having, or just regular conversations that Suge didn't know were being recorded, if you will, right? And then go and play it and be like, the only reason why I'm playing this is because, no, the only reason why he's playing it is because he's a rat. And he's secretly recording Suge Knight's conversations to try to use later on to basically wiggle his way out of saying, oh, see how docile Suge is? You think Suge would talk to somebody who he thought tried to kill him in Vegas? Well, like I said, they say keep your friends closer, but your enemies closer. And so when you understand that, what I just told you, you got to understand, Suge wasn't messing with Reggie. That's why Reggie went and told the LAPD that he had gang members on his payroll, ladies and gentlemen. Think about it. Why would you do that? If you were still the head of security and Suge was trusting you and using you as security, he wouldn't have did that. That's messing with his money. But he knew that he had been fired by Tupac. He knew Suge knew that. And Suge seen it all unravel. Like, wow. Pac gone. I got shot. Reggie was nowhere to be found. They had the meeting with him and Frank Alexander. Suge asked him, well, what happened, Reg? And Reggie talking about somebody else being the supervisor that night and blase, blase, blah. He passed the buck once again and then tried to point the finger at Frank Alexander, but then at the same time, listen, ladies and gentlemen, he wasn't even around. But he tried to get Frank Alexander to do what? He tried to get Frank to lie. About what? To lie and say that Orlando Anderson tried to snatch Tupac's chain. How in the hell can Frank Alexander lie about something like that? He said he had already gave a statement to the police, right? How could he say something like that when there's cameras in the goddamn hotel showing everything that happened? Reggie wanted Frank to lie despite what people, this is how stupid they think we are, right? Reggie wanted the Frank Alexander to lie despite what was on the camera. The same way, the same thing happened involving when Suge went to court and it was like, hey, he didn't. It's on camera. You can't go in front of a judge and tell a judge that, yo, this didn't happen. You understand what I'm saying? So when he did that, Frank was like, nah, I can't. I'm not gonna do that. Reggie was mad. Reggie wanted to get in front of it and control the narrative like he's been doing now. Who do you think introduced Keefe D to Vlad? Right? Reggie said it. Reggie said that he got Keefe D the interviews. So basically he lined him up along with Keefe D putting out the book, but he wanted Keefe D to put keep on talking. Right? So Keefe D kept talking and Keefe D is now in jail. It's simple as that. But what Keefe D did say also was what? Reggie was the mastermind. How is that? Suge just put it together. Oh yeah, I truly honestly think it was retaliation also from the MGM Grand, right? Because that's what Keefe D said. He would say he was there. Like I said, people can believe all of the, when Keefe D thought he had immunity, you know what I mean? He was talking, he wrote the book, all of those things, he thought he was protected. Come to find out that simply wasn't true. Because if it was true, listen to me, and I want you to understand this. If that were true, Keefe D would be out of jail right now. Why? Because he would have that immunity agreement. And when he basically filed the motion with the trial judge, in this case, Judge Crawl, guess what? She would have been like, you know what? Mr. Davis has immunity. He's to be released. Point blank, period. But that didn't happen. Because when he went to talk to the Las Vegas Police Department, they didn't offer any kind of immunity. It's one thing to have a relationship in a deal with the feds, but it's another thing with the state. And I told y'all before, Las Vegas was respecting the situation and the deal that Keefe D had with the feds. The state and the feds was like, okay, we know everything, cool, whatever. Keefe D got the queen for the proffer agreement deal, right? Everything you say here, you can only say it here. You can't speak on it nowhere else. He wrote the book. He went, did interviews. He broke the proffer agreement, ladies and gentlemen. That's why Keefe D is in jail right now. He wasn't supposed to do that. He broke the agreement. He was not supposed to speak publicly about the things that he spoke about in that meeting with Greg Kading and them. Right? When Greg Kading put out the murder rap and he put out the audio of that, okay, that's what that was. Keefe D was supposed to still remain silent and be quiet because, once again, he signed a proffer agreement. Greg Kading didn't sign the proffer agreement. Get it? So when Greg Kading did that, Keefe D got mad. And I can understand why he would get mad, because he's thinking like, hey, you know what? I'm doing this in confidentiality. Right? And rightfully, okay, cool. But once again, you got to read the fine print. And that's what a lot of people don't do. They don't read the fine print. So now, here we come now. Full circle. You got Keefe D in jail. He does an interview with our ABC News, and he mentions Reggie, the Wright Jr., and him being the mastermind. Now, why would he do that? Was there a conversation that Keefe D had with Reggie beforehand? Did he know anything about the money that was being offered? And be like, yo, the hell with him. He filed my security. Was there a conversation that happened prior to that Keefe D would know about, they would know about, and that goes into Orlando being where he was at from that perspective, knowing what Keefe D said about the Diddy situation, even though the prosecution not going to use that. That was something that was spoke on. Think about it. So when he say the mastermind behind it, saying what? Where was Pac's security? Why did he try to get Michael Moore off of him? I showed you the video once again with Michael Moore saying, hey, not only Michael Moore, but the guy who was Michael Moore's roommate. He said it. Michael Moore was hot that he was taken off of Tupac that night. And guess who he told it to? He told it to Gullible John. He told it to John. John asked him, John asked, how do you know what happened that night about Michael Moore, how he was feeling? He said, because I was Michael Moore's roommate. What? Right. And so therefore, you take the guys off them with the guns so nobody can perhaps be in a retaliatory, stance from that perspective. After everything happened, Reggie comes back, tries the Monday morning quarterback, everything. Oh, but yeah, some people did shoot back, right? All of what he knew about the alleged Buntry shooting back and whoever else was in the other white super or whatever, he learned that secondhand. He didn't know that firsthand. And so when he learned that, now he began to start talking about it, right? The same thing he did in relation to what he did with Frank Alexander. Why would he tell Frank, yo, say that Orlando tried to snatch Tupac chain? And then the reason he made that up, he said he told Frank to say that was because he was trying to keep Tupac out of jail. How you trying to keep Tupac out of jail and Tupac at University Medical Center in an induced coma, fighting for his life with one lung, finger missing, and all of these other things? How I know? Because I interviewed Tupac's father, Billy Garland, and he told me when he was at the hospital how his son looked. And that his son did not say any words at all. Period. Point blank. Billy Garland said he never gained consciousness, ladies and gentlemen. This is somebody who was there. That's the man's father. So now, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. now comes out with this video. He plays conversations of Suge Knight that Suge Knight don't even know he's being recorded. You know why he did that? Because he knows he's been lying. So what he's trying to do is cultivate this public thing where he's saying, if Suge believed all of that, you think he'd be talking to me? It wasn't that Suge wanted to talk to Reggie. Reggie wanted to talk to Suge. You see what I'm saying? He been begging Suge to call him. You've seen it in some of the videos that he's put out. Call me, man. If you got my number, right? So if Suge gave him a call or Reggie accepted a call, it wasn't because he called him because, you know what I mean? You begged, yeah, he know you. You're begging the man to call him. To call you. You see? So once again, when you understand what it is, the factual nature of the matter, I played the video in which Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. basically said that he knew, in fact, that Tupac had fired him. Ladies and gentlemen, he claimed that the security was on Tupac in New York. I showed you. Security was on Tupac in New York because that was an industry event and Suge Knight was there. The security company worked for Death Row. What Tupac had fired Reggie from as being his personal security outside of Death Row. You get it? When it was Death Row hours, Death Row business, they were to, monitor Tupac and be security. That's why we saw him on him in New York. But in Las Vegas, different story. And you seen the conscious effort. You heard from Michael Moore. You heard from Frank Alexander, right? You heard from Michael Moore's roommate. Say, yo, Mike was pissed off that he was removed from Tupac and he wouldn't relinquish his gun. Reggie lied about the fact that about the Gotham situation. He didn't mention Michael Moore getting in the car with him until Suge called him out for the lie about him saying that he came to the hospital. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. said after Tupac got shot, he went to the hospital. For 27 years, he had said him and George Calisis went to the hospital. He never mentioned Michael Moore. You know when he mentioned Michael Moore? When Suge called him a liar about the fact that Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. said that Suge Knight told him that Orlando and them did it, or Southside did it at the hospital after it happened. It was a lie. Suge didn't tell him that. Suge said, I didn't see Reggie in no at the hospital, and he didn't come to my room. I didn't tell him nothing like that. And it was proven that Reggie was lying because Reggie did a video in which he was, one minute he said that they asked him, how did you know who did it? He was like, Suge told me. And then when asked again, he was like, yeah, I think some of the homies in the parking lot, they had told me. So which one was it? Was it the homies in the parking lot? Or was it Suge? It damn sure wasn't Suge. But when he said that, right, Reggie was so caught up with the lie that he had told, he needed a third person alibi to say it, because remember, Michael Moore said that he heard the got him statement outside of the 662 when they were about to go to the hospital. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. ignored all of what Michael Moore said for all of these years until Suge called him out for the lie. Then he said, oh, well, since y'all wanted to believe Michael Moore, well, oh yeah, because I forgot. Michael Moore he got into the car with us and drove to the hospital. Oh, did he? Because for so many years, Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. had told us what? What did he tell us, man? Man, Michael Moore lying. How are you gonna hear when Michael Moore said he heard the got him, it had to be inside the club, and you couldn't hear that inside the club with the loud music. That was his first excuse. But now Suge called him out. He all of a sudden remembered Michael Moore getting into the car with him and George Calisis going to the hospital. Amazing. Amazing. Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. can't be trusted. He's lied so much, it doesn't even make sense. He's now saying, oh, I can't really say nothing about the Tupac case because they might call me to testify. About what? So you see, he's trying to be on the other side of the fence. The prosecution don't need no help from Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. He wasn't there. It is a fact that he tried to get Frank Alexander to lie. It is a fact that he lied about the fact that about the got him statement. It is a fact that he tried to get Frank Alexander to lie about the receiving to be summoned to court, right? The subpoena. Like I told y'all, he lied about that too. Talking about, yeah, I just wanted Frank to do his job. No, he didn't. Because Frank recorded him on the phone because Frank didn't even trust him. And he on the phone talking about, Frank, if you could avoid the subpoena today and not go to court, everything gonna be cool. But he on YouTube telling these other YouTube channels, all I wanted to, Frank to do was his job. Dude, we got the audio where Frank recorded him, just like Reggie doing now with other people recording them without their permission and them knowing. Frank got him with that move first. And you hear Reggie clear as day. If you could just avoid the subpoena, everything would be cool. What? But then in front of the cameras, in front of microphones, I just wanted him to trying to sound like he's some upstanding guy. Come on, man. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You gotta understand something, man. Anybody that'll get on the internet and talk about what somebody did for somebody else's mom and all of these other things, and they can't be trusted, man. Like I told you, he sued me. He filed a lawsuit against me talking about defamation because I called him Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. It is clear as day that Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. was a 137 informant for the FBI. The guy, former FBI, basically testified to that, right? Come on. What are we talking about? And then we get this mumbo and mumbling, jumbling conversation when they do these videos and this ranting and going right and going left You know what I mean? Not no cohesive sentences and things. What are they talking about? The fact of the matter is, like Suge Knight. See, because Suge put it all together now. Guess what? Reggie the Wright Jr. was complicit in the murder of Tupac Shakur, ladies and gentlemen, by the fact that Tupac fired him. We still have yet to hear from Keefe D and what he has to say about that fully. We heard what Suge Knight said about Reggie. Crooked cops. Right? Reggie is a convicted felon. Right? Convicted of money laundering, interstate trafficking of drugs. Right? All of that. He's not an upstanding guy. Come on. Whatever, man. Like what? You see what I'm saying? He already said Phil Carson. Phil Carson also said that if you think that Reggie, the only thing that Reggie told us about as the FBI, when Phil Carson worked, when he was the FBI agent, Phil Carson said, if you think that the only thing Reggie told us about was the crooked mayor in Compton, right? Omar Bradley, he said, then you're a fool. He told him a lot of stuff about a lot of people. And Reggie even said it himself. He said, I tell on crooked mayors and motherfuckers that I don't like. Or he said, niggas that I don't like. There you have it. So when you understand everything, that it's not even and it's like, to be able to deny something, right? You have to come with a concrete alibi. Because the listening, putting up a conversation with Suge Knight on the phone that he didn't know was being recorded, and then you acting like you buddying up with him. The same thing he did to Keefe D. He tried to do the same thing with Keefe D. Right? Play like he was his buddy and his friend, all at the same time he was setting him up. Yeah, come on, man. Tupac, listen to me, man. The spirit of Tupac Shakur is alive, ladies and gentlemen. Karma is real. Whether you believe in it or not, you know what I mean? That's totally up to you. But like I said, Suge put the pieces together. Keefe D's over here saying the same thing. You think that's a coincidence? It's all Keefe D lying, Suge lying. Nah. Remember, Keefe D said that him and Suge locked eyes. Right? I still believe that too. Yeah, I believe what Keefe D said when he said it. Right. He was too detailed. And, like I said, I understand why Keefe D was said that, he did it all because he was lying, because he did it for money and fame. But just now, just recently, Keefe D what? Keefe D now has changed lawyers again. 3 times a lady, right? Check it out. Public defender the first time, Carl Arnold. He's not on the case no more. And now he has 2 other new lawyers, high-profile lawyers. Like I said, is it strategy, right? Or is it desperation? We don't know. But like I said, one has to answer and be held accountable for their actions, their words, and their deeds. You can't escape that. The law says you have a right to remain silent. Everything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. These guys are supposed to be gangsters. And rule number 1 is what? Keep your mouth shut. You see? And so understanding that and understanding what has transpired, right? It's just like, see, let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. When Tupac got shot in New York, right? He may have possibly known who did it and why they did it. As a matter of fact, he did. He did, right? He was mad at Biggie and Puffy because he felt like they had a relationship where, they would have warned him, whatever. That's a fact. But when it came down to it, right, and you understand what that was about, okay, wow. He understood. Did Tupac say anything? He kept his mouth shut. He said it in records. You know what I mean? But he didn't go to the DA. Right? He didn't go and like I said, once again, it's a difference in how one conducts themselves and when they're saying one thing and understanding another. Like I said, a lot of people have believed in this whole thing about from their elders who were having money and getting money at one time. You know what I mean? Getting money and and it was like, yeah, snitching is bad, and blah 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 blah. And if you snitching this, that, and the other, the snitches gets all of this, right? But listen to me, man. The very people who were pushing that narrative, snitches get stitches, and I'm the OG, and I'm this, that, and the other, and blah, 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 blah. The people who really lived up to that, you won't even hear about them because they still living up to that. Whether they've changed their life and gone in a different direction and went straight because they got caught up, understood what it was. Man, look, I ain't giving these people no more time in my life in no penitentiary or nothing like that. I'm gone, you know what I mean? Got a job, got a family, and then went on and got straight, right? They went to jail, ain't say nothing, right? Then, like I said, those people, you ain't never really gonna hear nothing from them. But what we're hearing now is truly disappointing. Because the people who were pushing the narrative, like Keefe D, was like, I'm a gangster, homie, I'm da-da-da-da-da. But now he's basically saying that, hey, you know what? I shouldn't be charged with this because I cooperated with y'all and I gave y'all all this information. But while still professing to be a gangster. I don't get it. I really, truly, honestly don't get that, man. You know what I mean? That's all that's not a diss to Keefe D. I'm saying for the people who know and understand what I'm talking about, and we talking about from grandmothers that go to church, right? That's from the neighborhood that understood what everything was going on in there. From the people who lived in the neighborhood, around the neighbor, who understood what that was, and be like, yeah, that boy over there, he telling. They say he telling. You see what I'm saying? The culture, the subculture of what that is and what that meant, I don't understand it. I don't. But like I said, now you see, it comes out about Reggie. No shame in his game. Yeah, he's cooperating. He's telling. Here's what it is. I can't say nothing about the case because I might get called. There you have it. Like I said, once again. And so when you understand that, like I said, the karma is real. Tupac Shakur's spirit is alive, man. Through the music, through the art, through people that he knew, loved. It's crazy, man. It's really, really crazy. But like I said, when you think about the big picture, Suge Knight just said it the other day. Keefe D is saying it. When we get to what is coming up in regards to when this trial starts, like I say, Keefe D just obtained new counsel. We don't really know the dynamics of what he wasn't saying versus what he is saying now in regards to Reggie the Wright Jr. But I do know one thing. Playing conversations that Suge didn't know he was recorded, playing and basically talking about Suge Knight's girlfriends and somebody recording something with his girlfriends does not distract us from what was said the other day. And that Reggie the Wright Jr., crooked cops, and crooked gang members and snitching gang members were responsible for the attempted assassination of Suge Knight and the assassination of Tupac Shakur. Keefe D is saying that Reggie Wright was the mastermind. Those are the two people. One was in the Cadillac, the other one was in the BMW, that are saying this. Why there is a coincidence? I don't believe it's no coincidence. Like I said, once again, Reggie the Wright Jr. said that Suge doing it for money. I don't know that to be true. Like I said, all I know is what was said. All I know is what I pieced together and with the evidence and the lies that have been told and the things that I showed you. 3 days after Tupac died, Reggie went to the LAPD, said Suge Knight got gang members on his payroll, blood gang members on his payroll, and they're carrying firearms. And it led to a felony traffic stop, ladies and gentlemen. Check out the video I did a couple of days ago. I put up the actual whistling. I'm not going to keep putting it up, but for the people who know, they know what I'm talking about. This is 3 days after Tupac died. Why is Reggie going to talk to the police, telling them that Suge Knight got gang members on his payroll? That's supposed to be Suge Knight's homie, his friend, the guy that gave you a job to put food on the table. Remember, he was talking about all the money he was making with a security company on death row? You get it? Once again, the telling. For no reason. That's that 137 thing that Phil Carson was talking about, even in dealing with the LAPD, so much so that the LAPD, when they put out the statement, they put out who they actually talked to. The head of security, Reggie Wright Jr. I was like, whoa. Tupac just died this 3 days afterwards? Why would he run to the LAPD? That's crazy. I mean, think about it. And so when Suge Knight says what he says, if Reggie did that 3 days after Tupac died, he went to the LAPD talking about, yeah, he got gang members on his payroll, blood members on his payroll, and they got guns, then why in the hell wouldn't one think that Reggie the Rat Wright Jr. was in conspiracy or conspiring with other people to assassinate Suge Knight and Tupac Shakur? Because Phil Carson, the former FBI agent, said that Reggie Wright Jr. wanted to take over death row. This is a fact, ladies and gentlemen. I heard the tape. You see? So when one tries to, throw these little shiny objects, see, you see the conversation we just had? Would that be somebody that was... Think about it. Let me answer that for you. He played conversation with him and Suge Knight, right? Saying, does that sound like somebody? But like I said, Suge didn't know he was being recorded. Listen to this. Suge didn't know he was being recorded. So he plays conversation with Suge. Suge didn't know he was being recorded. He went to the Los Angeles Police Department 3 days after Tupac died and said Suge got blood gang members on his payroll and carrying guns. He's never addressed that to Suge. Ask him that question, Gullible John. I bet you can't answer it. I bet you can't answer it. He can't. He can't, because guess what? It is what Suge said it was. It is what Keefe D said it was. What'd he say? There's 3 tomatoes walking, right? The little baby tomato in the back, right? And the father runs back there and squashes him, right? And say, yeah, the bullshit catching up. The bullshit catching up. Yeah, you get it? Squash tomatoes, catch up. That's what's going on. And like I said, once again, the spirit of Tupac Shakur is alive, man. You can't beat that. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your time. More importantly, pay attention, stay diligent. We're going to see, like I said, with the trial going on, we're going to see everything get talked about. And like I said, there's more that's going to be revealed. Keefe D has new counsel. I'm sure they're going to be making some kind of press conference or statements in regards to what their strategy is. And yeah, like I said, your boy Delray, straight game.
Life is like some cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. remember they used to laugh at a brother